This door over here, someone broke the window out of it. If you're familiar with door terminology, they actually call the window a light, L-I-G-H-T, and what that's referring to is the light that the window lets in. So kind of funky, but that's the terminology for it. So anyway, they broke the light when they were moving out. New tenants are moving in, and so I need to get this fixed for the new tenant. Now, I wanted to just walk you through the process real quick. So this is the top grid of the light or window. So this is the piece that's going to be on the inside of the door, and there is a pane of glass behind it. Somehow they managed to break the outside pane of glass, but not the inside pane. So I went ahead and pulled it out, salvaged it. So this is the top grid, and as you can see your screw holes in the back. You can also see the side grid and the outside grid kind of snap into each other or lock into each other. And then you have your screw holes. So the screw holes you can see better from this side. So the way you take this off, you'll have these plastic plugs. All right, and I'm going to show you these in the other door, and I'm going to show you how you take those off. So what I do, this is an 1.5 inch screw, and it just happens to be a Torx screw, but it wouldn't matter. You could use Torx or Phillips. So you're going to find these plugs around the edge of the grid, and what you're going to do is you're going to take this screw, okay, with your drill or your impact, and you're going to run that right into the middle of that plug, okay? And what it's going to do, this screw is going to go in until it hits the head of the screws that hold it together, which are these. Okay, nothing fancy, they're just a Phillips. But what's going to happen is this screw is going to go in until it hits the head of that screw, and then that's going to extract the plastic plug. So once you extract the plug, then you just remove it from the screw by threading it off and move on to the next one. And once you have all of the plugs out, then you want to take all of these screws out, okay? They're a Phillips, 4 across the bottom, 4 across the top, and 4 down both sides. So you take all those out and you pull the inside grid off, okay? Now the inside grid does not have any glass attached to it. It's just going to be the plastic grid like that one right there with no glass attached. Your outside grid is going to be the one that actually has the glass attached to it. As you can see there, it has the 2 panes of glass. They're sandwiched together, and they have an adhesive sealant that holds them together and attaches them to this outside grid. Okay, so this outside grid is going to be the one that has the glass, and it's going to have this seal all the way around it. A sticky rubber sealant. It's almost like silicone when it starts to set up, and it still has that little bit of tack to it and that rubbery feeling. And that sealant, the sealant on the inside lip of that is what's holding it to the door. You can see that line. This is the original primer color of the door. This is a metal clad door, and that line is where the seal came to. So the way you remove that is you just work your way around the edge with a scraper. I'm just using a painter's tool, but some type of a sharp edge scraper. You don't want to gouge the door, okay, and you don't want to dig into the plastic on the grid. You just want to get underneath that seal and work your way around. And I found on this one, I was able to work up about 2 feet down. I worked up to the top and across the top and down about 1 foot, and at that point I could get underneath it and slowly pulled it off. Now it's cold today. If it was warmer out, that would peel off easier, but when it's cold, you know, anything that's plastic or rubber type product, it gets brittle and hard. So anyways, you peel that out of there, clean up all of your broken glass, and then you come back with your scraper again and you scrape off any excess, like right here. Okay, you scrape off any of that excess sealant so that it doesn't get in the way of the new grid. All right, now the next step I'll go ahead and do, and then I'll show you. But basically all you're gonna do is insert that new grid with the windows or the glass attached. So that's gonna be your outside grid. You're gonna insert it from the outside. Once it's securely in the door, you're gonna hold it in place. Don't take the chance that that thing might fall out on you. I'm gonna have a helper hold the outside grid in place while I fit the inside grid. If you don't have a helper, you can run some tape across the four corners. So you have the grid in place and you'd run tape across the corner, the good strong tape, to make sure that stays in place, okay? Because you're gonna be pushing on it a little bit from the inside as you fit that inside grid into it. The way you set that in place is just like you're setting a new window into an existing window frame. All right, you're gonna set the bottom in first, get the bottom and the sides lined up, and then hold the bottom in place and start working it in until the top is all the way in and everything's sitting nice and flush. So it's sitting nice and flush, there are no gaps. What little bit of gaps might be there, if you have any little gaps, those are gonna pull up whenever you screw the inside grid into it and it sandwiches into that door. So let's go to the inside. The grid is setting in place, okay, and you can see all the way around the edge of it is inside the frame. Once the inside and the outside are put together and you put a couple screws in it, then you're secure. You don't have to worry about it falling out. I would highly recommend using your drill with a clutch setting, okay, instead of using an impact or something like that. Use a drill with a clutch setting and set the clutch to where these don't strip out, okay? You've only got about half of this screw, so about half to 3/4 of an inch going into the outer grill, and it's just vinyl, okay? And you saw those little pins that they're going into. There's not a whole lot of plastic there, so you want to be sure that you don't strip those out. Then you go through, put the rest of your screws in. And once all your screws are in, it should look like this, okay? You shouldn't have any gap. Everything should be sealed up nice. You shouldn't be able to see in between the grids and the panes of glass. Now down here, I kept 3 screws out so that you can see the gap. If you look right in here, okay, you can see the gap compared to up here where there is no gap, all right? So this is what it needs to look like all the way around. And then once you've done that, you come to the edges, of your grill on the inside and the outside, and look at it all the way around and make sure that it's up flush with the door, nice and snug. You can use a little bit of silicone, the painter's acrylic silicone caulk. If you have any gaps, you can fill those in with that. You don't want to go crazy on it, and you definitely want to use the type of caulk that you can paint over, but is also weather resistant, especially on the outside, because it's a good probability that sooner or later someone's going to paint the door a different color, or it may be a primered door that needs a coat of paint. So make sure that it's something you can paint over. Here are the plugs. Now, these are on a little wheel, and you just break them off of the little wheel. They'll either come like that, or they'll come in a little baggie. You've got 2 styles. This one, you can see it's not flat. It has a curve to it, which contours to the door trim. And then you have these that have a crease or a groove down the middle of them. Okay, now those are for the corners. So I'll show you one here. So you see how your corner comes to that angle. So you're going to take that and get it lined up. There you go. Okay, see how the groove is lined up with the joint. Okay. And then you just push it in there until it's nice and flush. Same thing on the flats. Okay, get it lined up. All right, push it in there until it looks nice and flush. And all those do, they're just covering up the holes. So, you know, when you're not 3 inches away from it, then those old screw holes, they just blend right in. You don't even notice them anymore. So that's it, guys. You get all those plugs in place. It just takes a few seconds and you're done.